Hey, this is Michael Pavlovich, and I'm going to go over how I created my zombie brush. And the first thing you need if you want to create a zombie brush is a zombie to cut up and take pieces off of. And how I made this guy was Z-spheres, adaptive skin, sculpted the adaptive skin up, going through my subdivision levels until I got to a point where I could QRemesh, project all of his details, and this is pretty much exactly how I arrived at this guy right here. Of course, there's any number of ways you can create a base mesh. You can do Z-spheres with Z-sketch. You can import a low-res base mesh from an external program. You can do primitives in ZBrush with Dynamesh, or a combination of all of the above. But once you've got a base mesh that you like, you're ready to cut him up. However, before we do that, I want to show you a cool new feature in ZBrush, which is the grid plane image reference. And the first thing we're going to do is need to bring up our floor grid. And how you do that is there's a floor button over here. We're going to turn on X and Z first. We have X, Y, and Z all showing, and then we're going to turn on the floor grid so the button turns orange. And now we have our floor grid out here. And in order to start importing images onto these grid planes, what we need to do is make it easier on ourselves. What we're going to do is draw this, take this draw menu and dock it over to the side. We're going to scroll down, and right here where it says front and back, we're going to open that up because we're going to bring in a front and back image. We're not going to have an up and down image, but we are going to have a left and right image. And we're going to be messing with these modifiers down here. So let's go ahead and bring some images in. And where I'm getting these images is from Photoshop. So here's our views. And you're going to notice I have this JPEG, this sketch of this guy, cropped pretty close to the top of the head and the bottom of the feet. And the reason for that is when I take it into ZBrush, I'm going to let ZBrush do a little bit of that work for me. But anyways, we have our back, front, and side view all sketched out as a JPEG. So we'll go back into ZBrush. I'll go ahead and bring that image in. And so the first thing I'm going to do is go to this front back area, click map 1 and do import. And go grab that image plane. And there's our JPEG imported in there. Now in this front back view, we only want to show the front part. So what we can do is go to adjust and drag this little crop button over, this little crop red circle thing, and drag that over so that we can only see the front on that side. And we'll drag this one over. Then we only have the front highlighted. And there's a lot of options in here to adjust. You can press this adjust button and make all sorts of adjustments, which we don't need to do right now. So I'm going to crop this area out and hit OK. And that'll be our front image. And for map 2, we're going to do back. So we're going to go ahead and do import again. And we're going to go hit adjust. And this time we're going to grab his back section here. Hit OK. And we'll scroll down here and we'll do left and right. We'll click map 1, import, grab that same image, and we'll go to adjust, and we'll grab that left image. Now instead of using one image, you can actually save them as Photoshop as front, back, and left as separate images and then import them that way. I just went ahead and put them all in one image, and I'm just going to crop them. So let's go ahead and see what we got. So we got our guy here, and we got our images on our image planes. So let's go ahead and match our image planes to our guy. A real simple way to do that is to go over here underneath the snap menu, underneath the draw menu, and do snap to mesh. That's going to snap this grid to exactly the size of our guy here, as long as we have him selected as our subtool. Let's go ahead and turn off perspective and check our image planes out. The first most obvious problem is that his side view needs to be flipped. Let's go ahead and look at his back view. That looks like it's really close. And our front view is pretty close too. Looks like it's a little bit off over here in the horizontal. So how to make it these micro adjustments is go to the front and back section, select that first map, the front map, and we're going to do horizontal offset, and we're just going to slide that slider over just a tad, just to even that out just a little bit. And of course you have access to vertical offset and angle as well. So then we'll go back to the side view. A couple things we can do with this side view actually. If you just want to flip this guy, let's go to the left and right and hit flip, and that'll flip him around the right way. You also notice as I go to this other side, he kind of disappears. Well, if you like sculpting on this side, one thing you can do is hit switch, and that'll throw him into the other view, which is the right view. And as you go to this side, you can see him. And since you went over across the axis, you got to flip him again. So let's hit the flip button. And now you can see him through this angle. However, if you want to see him on both sides and just use one image, what you can do is we'll go ahead and switch this map back to the left side. And we'll go ahead and hit this 1 button. So now it'll use one image for both of these sides, which is fine because his left and right are identical. And all we have to do is hit flip one more time, and now we have left and right sides that are both identical. And if we want to modify this, we can go to this side, and we'll do this horizontal offset, even them out, And now both sides are ready to be used as image plane reference, and looks like our front and back are good as well. Now that we've got our image plane set up, let's go ahead and look at some of these other options that are available to us. And the first thing I'm going to do is go straight up here to the top, and let's work our way down. And the first thing we're going to do is change this fill mode. So if you go down to fill mode of 0, it gets rid of our image planes altogether. If we go to fill mode of 1, you're going to notice the image planes are there, but they're pretty slight. And in fact, it's actually behind the guy. So if you want to bring that image to the front, go ahead and hit this front button, and then the image will go to the front. If we go to fill mode of 2, this one's filled in a little bit better. And if you go to fill mode of 3, it's the slight over projection as well as a combination of edge enhance. So it's kind of got a Fresnel shader on my guy right here on the mesh. So when you play with these edge enhance factor, the edge opacity and the edge enhance, you can actually play with how much of the model you see or how much of the image you see behind it. So you can go ahead and if you want to, you can actually bring the image all the way up and the edge enhance factor all the way up, and that'll actually give you a silhouette of your guy that you can use to modify around, so you can actually see just the silhouette of your character. Or if you want to bring more detail back in, again, go to your edge enhance and kind of ease some of that detail back in. So definitely go in there and play with these two settings and see what kind of works for you. It gives you a full range of your model detail and your image plane reference detail. And you may have noticed as I was moving my cursor over my character, these lines are popping off of him. Those are the projection lines. So you can actually, let's go ahead and turn perspective back on. As you're sculpting, you can actually look at, as I'm going over his shoulder, you can see in both views, as it traces the model, how in line you are with your actual reference. So you can set up your landmarks here as you're sculpting and make sure that everything is lining up the way it should be. And over here, you can actually change the projection line opacity right here. You can knock that down just a bit if it's too heavy, or you can bump it up. Or if you want to turn it off altogether, you can turn off these P lines over here, these P line buttons, and it'll just get rid of it. We'll go ahead and turn those back on because they're useful. So you can turn these on and make sure all of your landmarks are lining up, and it looks like this guy's really close. And say you've got these projection images all set up just the way you want it. If you want to, you can actually go up here to save, and you can save off this image projection grid and just bring it in as a project and start sculpting immediately from those images if you'd like. So if you have a base human that you like to set up, go ahead and save out a projection and just bring it in later and just start sculpting. And before we head out of here, let's go ahead and show off one more feature, and that's snapshot to grid. So with our guy selected, let's go ahead and go back out of perspective mode. What we can do is hit this snapshot to grid, and that'll take a snapshot of your character and apply it to the grid planes. So if you go over here, you can actually see your front and back, left and right, and even your up and down images have been updated with views of your guy. So top, bottom, up, down, left, and right. And you can use this to your advantage if you want to actually snapshot your character and then go in and modify him, and then always have this original image behind to kind of see what kind of changes you're making. Another thing you can do is we'll go ahead and bring in a Z tool here. Let's bring in the dog. And if you want to, you can snapshot, say you just want to snapshot this dog to the side view. What we can do is turn off, we'll just turn on the X image plane, and then we'll do snapshot to grid. We'll put the dog over there. We'll bring our guy back. And with our floor grid turned on, in that view, we'll actually have this model. So as long as you have a model that you have available to you for reference, you can snapshot to any of these grid planes. And let's do one more cool thing. We're going to do the snapshot to grid one more time, so we just have our guy again. I'm going to duplicate off this top base mesh, select him, and I'm going to go down here to the Geometry tab and hit Shadow Box. What that's going to do is give us a shadow box that's exactly matched up with our grid. It's actually went ahead and maxed the character out because that's what we had selected when we did our shadow box. You can go ahead and clear that mask if you want to, or let's go ahead and hide our original mesh here. So if you clear that mask, we don't have anything left in there. Or if you want to, you can keep this shadow box mask and just start appending things to it and start making changes like that. And remember, you got your top view as well to consider. So you can go in here and make all sorts of shadow box adjustments. Or like I said, you can go ahead and clear him off, show this guy originally, or show this guy, and then you've got your image here that you can actually use to dictate where you want your mesh to go. So you can start giving him accessories on the fly. So just really cool ways to use these snapshot image planes to your advantage. So anyway, let's say we're done with these image planes and we've got our character proportionally just the way we want him. So what we're going to do is turn off his floor plane. Go ahead and delete this shadow box out of there. We don't need that anymore. Delete that little extra piece of geometry there. So we've got our guy here ready to go, and what we're going to do is go ahead and Q remesh this guy. So what I'm going to do is go to the Geometry tab, and we'll open up Q remesher, and we'll start going over the Q remesher process. So over here in the Q remesher menu, the first thing I'm going to do is set the target polygon count. And if you look up here, our active polygons right now are about 40,000. I don't think I need that much detail, so I'm going to drop this target polygon count down to 25. And just using the default, I'm going to go ahead and just hit Q remesh. Alright, so we'll go ahead and turn on polyframe and look at the mesh we got. And you'll see we got a nice blanket of quads that actually follow the form. And the first thing I'm going to bring up is the fact that he's not symmetrical across the x-axis, and that's because we didn't have the x symmetry turned on. So I'm going to go ahead and hit X, and next time we Q remesh, it'll be symmetrical. Second thing is we're losing some resolution on the face, so we can actually clean that up. And this third thing is, if we're going to animate this guy later, which is a possibility, we would want edge rings to kind of flow this way instead of just going straight up and down. We'd want edge rings so when he bent his leg at his thigh area, he would move a little bit better. As far as everything else, the hands turned out really well, I think. And so just a little bit of cleanup. So I'll go ahead and hit Control Z. And this time around, I'm going to go into Subtool, and I'm going to duplicate this guy off. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to select the second mesh, turn off the first one. I'm just going to run my Q remesh functions on the second mesh so that when I'm done Q remeshing, I can project some of that detail back. And then we'll start slicing him up. So now that we're working out the duplicate, let's go ahead and put some Q remesh lines in here. So I'm going to hit B and hit Q, and that'll be the Q remesh guidelines that'll bring that up. And I'm going to need to tell it, for example, in this area, instead of having these polygons just flow straight this way, I need to have it cut across so he can bend his leg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down, I'm just going to drag across my mesh, and as soon as I leave the mesh, I'm going to hold down Shift. And that's going to allow me to draw an edge ring around the object. So I'm going to go ahead and do that around the knee and the ankle. Oops, let's go to the side view here. There we go. Just to kind of reinforce the idea that while you're reevaluating my mesh with Q remesher, I want you to put edge loops in these areas where it's important that he bends correctly. I want to put one around his shoulder, but this one might be a little bit tricky. Seems to be grabbing a little bit much. So we'll go ahead and draw this one manually. And all you need to do is just drag on your mesh and draw. And then if you want to continue this line, go ahead and just drag right off the end of this one. And it'll just continue your line just fine. Right underneath here. And we'll just go ahead and connect this back up. There we go. So we've got our lines drawn. That's going to tell us where the edge loops want to go. The other problem we had is not enough resolution in the face. So what I'm going to do is go down here to Q remesher. I'm going to turn on auto mask so it'll give me access to this M density. And what that's going to do is wherever I have this object masked, it's going to add a little bit more density. Now I don't need 4 times the density, so I'm just going to put this down to 2. I'll hold down Control, and I choose Mask Lasso. I've got perspective off, and I'm going to snap to the side view. I'm just going to drag over these little problem areas. So we're going to double the density in this area. So now we've got our Q remesh lines drawn in, telling it where I want the edge loops, and the mask here telling me where I want more density. I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. So I'm going to go ahead, and with our target polygon count still at 25,000, I'm going to go ahead and hit Q remesher one more time. Alright, let's turn on polyframe and go check it out. So we've allowed ZBrush to rearrange our edge flow here a little bit. Everything looks good. It's down the center axis, and it's actually added just enough density in this area to pick up all the detail that I wanted. And all in all, I think it's a pretty good remesh here. So what I want to do is go up here, turn on my other object, go and turn everything else off. So I've got my Q remesh and I've got my original object. I'm just going to go down here to project and hit project all, grab some of that detail back. So here's our Q remeshed object with that detail kind of projected back on, and he's just about 25,000 polygons, and I think he's ready to be sliced up now.